We're live. All right. Welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, and normally my co-host Hunter would be joining via video, but right now his Wi-Fi is a little down, so he's going to be calling in on the show. So today we're going to be talking about some MLB news that's come out, some previewing the Beltway series between the Orioles and Nationals, and some NFL news as well as recapping some commitments from Virginia Tech, and then we'll first start with the big news out here, which is that the Cleveland baseball team, we now know the new name of it, which is the Cleveland Guardians. What are your thoughts on it, Hunter?
Yeah, so I'm coming to you. Wi-Fi is a bit weird, and I'm also at the beach this weekend, so I figured I'd call in for this. But yeah, I mean, the logo was pretty sweet. I thought, didn't you think? I mean, it's nice. The name I think is a bit strange. I'm gonna have to start getting used to that more. I wish they could have done maybe like I saw the star on there. Like, it would have been interesting. I get the Guardians is all right, but I think the logo. I saw people were comparing it to the Angels one. It looks like a straight ripoff from it.
Yeah, it does. I'm just finding the logo and then sharing on screen.
On my Twitter. It's pretty sweet, but I know they kind of copied it directly from the Angels.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna share. But yeah, I mean, my first thought was it kind of reminded me a lot of of arena, like was an Arena Football League type of name. Yeah, so it actually looks pretty good. I've seen some jokes saying that maybe the Cleveland Guardians should use Groot as the mascot.
The Groot, that's good.
Or Rocket Raccoon, that could be a cool.
Raccoon is their mascot. Okay, that is decently funny. Did you watch the video? Because Tom Hanks was narrating
it. Is he? I don't know if he's from Cleveland. I mean,
they had like a whole video when they announced the name, and I'm pretty sure it was Tom Hanks that was doing it.
Yeah, I mean that's weird because I thought I mean I know Tom Hanks was in a League of Their Own. Was a League of Their Own? Was that the baseball movie he was in?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so I don't know. A better example could have been like I know that his name's controversial, but Charlie Sheen because of Major League, that could have been one. Yeah, like they could have really used that as the thing, but no, I mean I agree. I think here's what I think. I think that this name is definitely an Arena Football League name. It's like how there's like teams that are minor league names. Like it's fine for a minor league team or supplemental league, but it's not really a professional team.
I would have preferred the Gladiators or something like that. I mean, the Guardians, it's not a bad name. It's definitely, I think, going to getting some used to just because, we've been calling them the Indians for so long now. But it's still not terrible. Definitely not my first choice. But again, man, I really do like the logo. I'm so curious to see what the Washington football team is going to call themselves. I think they're going to have their name coming out soon. They said before the season they haven't, I guess, settled on that. And then I'm not sure. Are the Braves going to do the same thing?
No, I think they're just going to. They might start reducing to Tomahawk Chop, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then there's the Chicago Blackhawks in hockey. I mean, there's a whole situation going on with them. I don't know if you've seen it. It probably should be one of the top stories in the country, but for some reason that's not. I don't know if they're ever going to change their name. But at least this is a start with a lot of the Indian names or the Native American names with sports teams.
Yeah, and then there was a name that I just thought of it. I can't believe no one else has brought up because the thing is, you don't want a name because if you're doing it if you're choosing a new name because if it's derogatory to Native Americans, obviously you want to avoid that as much as possible.
Yes.
But you want to avoid copyright issues as well. But it's not like there used to be a team in Washington that reflected the city that people still remember fondly. Well, it's not as controversial, and that's the Washington Senators. And I'm curious to see whether the Washington football team is considering that name, considering that there's a lot of older generation Washington fans that are familiar with Washington Senators as a baseball team, as a name for a baseball team, they could be talked into accepting that as a name for a football team. What do you think of them bringing back the Senators?
I think that would make a lot of sense. I've seen the Warriors thrown around, but I think it would be kind of stupid.
Sentinels? What was Sentinels?
The Sentinels, that's fine too. Anything along those lines is mostly okay. I think the Guardians, though, and the Warriors just found where the Warriors obviously are Golden State's team. I don't really think they should bring that for football too. Sentinels is good. The Senators, I think that's fine. I know it was like that with the Nationals. I don't know how upset like the ownership would be. I doubt it would be that much, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So with that, let's move other story, which is the Rays trade for Nelson Cruz. So basically, the Rays they sent two prospects, Trotman and someone.
Why are the Rays trading him? Aren't they in the playoff picture?
No, sorry. They're not the Rays. So the Rays traded for Nelson Cruz from the Twins.
Oh, yeah. I thought they traded. For some reason, I thought they traded him. I'm like so backwards today. I'm so sorry.
No problem. But I mean, yeah, that makes to the Cruz to the Rays for prospect Joe Ryan, who when I looked at his numbers, I think he was like the 17th best prospect in the Rays system, which probably means he's a top 10 guy in 80% of the rest of the minor league systems, given how stacked their thing is. And then Jake Trotman, I think that's the name. He's a guy in AAA right now. He's another guy who has a strikeout over 9, a rate of at least 10 strikeouts over, and they get back to someone else. I think this makes the Rays that much more dangerous.
I mean, it's them and the Red Sox for the East right now.
Yeah, right? It is.
They're going to be gunning for that crown. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch those two teams down the stretch. I mean, the Rays obviously very big into analytics. This trade makes a lot of sense because Cruz has been decent, I think, this year. Last time I checked. So
yeah, like 17 home runs. No, like at least 16, 17 home runs this year.
Yeah, he's a lot older too, but he's
41.
How old he is. The Rays farm system is so deep, so I don't really think they care giving away these prospects. They're in win now mode, and I'm sure they can just restock their system as they go along, just because they draft so well.
Yeah, they're like Hydra. Cut off one, had two more appear.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's basically Hydra. Yeah, but they're going to make the playoffs. It's them and the Red Sox for the East. I think right now I would have them winning the East, but I know Boston's been playing well.
And it depends on Glasnow whether he comes back.
The rotation just gets even more filthy. So
I mean, yeah. So basically, the thing with the Rays is they did call Wander Franco in like June. They called up Vidal Brujan, and I think they called up Taylor Walls. I think and to your point about their farm system being deep, these are 3 top 10 like shortstop prospects they have in their system. Those are 3 really good guys, and like Wander Franco was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. And then Vidal Brujan, like I mean, when you have 2 middle infield prospects that are probably in the top 25 in all of baseball. I mean, they called up both of those guys. Obviously, they're rookies; they're going to struggle a bit. Adding Cruz just gives them a more solid bat. Ji-Man Choi is a solid player. Joey Wendell's somehow got into the All-Star game. Brandon Lau's not Brandon Lau is I believe like there are moments where he's very good and there are moments he's not so good.
The big thing is that they're just so deep, like the team overall.
Yeah, like Randy Rosarena, Yandy Diaz. They have about reliever. They have like they have a bunch of relievers right now. I mean, it's a shame they play in a small market because they don't because Wander Franco's getting traded and like we know that for a fact. Like Glasnow, I would be surprised if Tyler Glasnow's on the team in 3 years. I'll be
He might
surprised
get
if
traded. Yeah, he might, especially if they can't come to a contract agreement, because I think that contract is up soon, right?
yeah. And then Wander Franco's getting traded in 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Vidal Brujan,
Yeah,
same
I'm
thing.
sure.
And it's so, and I think it's good that they actually have done that. Have a strong farm system that they could replace it. But it'll be nice to see them keep talent. I mean, I would want to see because I think Nashville can support a baseball team better
Mhm.
than Tampa Bay for sure.
They just need a new stadium down there, man. That's the only thing. Tropicana Field is such a dump. I don't know if you've ever been there. I mean, a couple of my close friends have been there. They sent me pictures. It looks like one of the biggest dumps in America.
Yeah, and with the A's, we'll see if
Yeah,
that new
what
stadium
happens there?
plan.
I don't know if they're getting a new stadium or not.
Yeah, no, and if it's not that, then they're probably. We'll
Yeah,
see. Yeah, we'll see about these teams. These smaller market teams. I know a lot of people are saying that the Orioles might go from Baltimore to Nashville. I really doubt that
yeah, that's not going to happen.
Because Camden Yards is such a great ballpark that a team it would be a waste to put a team there. So I don't see the Orioles going to Nashville and really that whole rumor started because there's like a radio host that so there's obviously check your sources. Like both of us went into communication classes, communications degree, so we all know, both of us know, check your sources before you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and speaking of the Rays, they just finished a series with the Orioles, and so the Orioles they took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. Who cares? It's Kansas City. They won 1 out of 3 against the Rays. Spencer, I mean, John Means almost retired from baseball, and now he's a solid number 3. And then Spencer Watkins, he almost retired and became a teacher. It seems like if you're an Orioles pitcher and you compliment, if you want to be a mid rotation guy at least, just consider retirement apparently. So he's Spencer Watkins has been pretty solid. 3 starts, like a 3.6 year. Like I think his ERA has to be like less than 3.5. So he's been pretty good. He won that first game. Tuesday's game was more memorable because I believe that was the first women's broadcast team.
Yep, that's awesome. I did not know that, but that is incredible. I hope we get a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, and I think it was. Did you see Santander? I think it was like Kelvin Gutierrez and Santander. Did you see that clip of them talking about it?
I did not know.
Basically, Kelvin Gutierrez basically says to Santander, "Oh yeah, this is the first game that was all females on the broadcast team," and he saw it on MLB Network. And it's Santander says they're carving their way into the sports industry, which is good because they're already better than us in most places anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that was great to see. And then Wednesday, I mean, Wednesday just proves that Tanner Scott's not a closer. I mean, I could see him as like an Andrew Miller setup man type guy, but the guy walks almost 6 guys per 9 innings, and that's not good at all. Uh, Blake had a bad error that led because they led 4-3 bottom of the ninth. They ended up losing 5-4. It wasn't completely Tanner Scott's fault, but he's not a closer. Like I said, he's an Andrew Miller 7th or 8th inning type guy. Um, so it'll be really interesting to see that. I mean, there's still some fan unrest about they want the team to call up certain prospects. I don't really care. This is a losing team anyway. You don't call up your top guys until you know that when your competitive window's opening, because you know how they say in the NFL, like your best chance to win a Super Bowl is when your quarterback's on a rookie, and you consciously make decisions that shorten that window to 2 to 3 years when you could keep it at 4 to 5.
yep.
Yeah, that's my viewpoint with the prospects. You have about 5 6 years if you have a group of guys like the Orioles do in the minor leagues, uh, and that's your window. Maximize your window as much as you can. And speaking of the minor leagues, what's really interesting here is that they did a stat on some of these farm systems from this point to the start of this year or within the last year or so, last 2 years, they've actually walked. I think I think it was either walked or they've got on base 42% at a rate that was 42% higher than what it was 1 or 2 years ago. And I think part of this is that they're not striking out so much. They're not, yeah, and that's like they're being more patient. But then Buck Britton, who's Zach Britton's brother, and manages that they're right now teaching the idea of know your strike zone, know your swing decision. So like know whether swing or at that pitch was a smart decision or not. Um, they're kind of re-emphasizing the analytical aspects of hitting, and you're starting to see that with the patience. And even though at the major league level you're not seeing that, the more of these minor league guys start making it to the majors, I think you're going to start to see these guys, the on base percentage go up a lot higher. And why don't you talk about the Nationals, and we'll briefly recap and preview the series.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I actually went to my first sporting event this week for the first time in 18 months since the pandemic really hit. Of course, the Nationals win that game 18-1. John Lester hits a home run, and you know your text was so funny. You know, the Washington football team was up 10-0 on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Basically, the second inning would basically be the equivalent after 2 minutes into a football game, and you know the Marlins are terrible. The Nationals took 2 out of 3 and kind of coughed up the game in extra innings because I just that runner on second rule is just kind of getting on my nerves at this point. But they were starting to play a bit better. This is a big week here for the team because Rizzo said earlier this week that how they do in this next week or week and a half is going to determine what he does at the trade deadline. He still thinks he's going to buy, but if the team does not play well, he will sell. That might include Scherzer, that might not. You know, might include some of the other players, but he said as doing that well. It is the Mets after all. But, you know, this series against the Orioles is pretty big. You know, they're a struggling team this year, but you know, so are the Nationals. The Nats, I think, swept them the last time in D.C. They're going to try to do that again. This time, I think Scherzer is pitching this weekend. It might be tonight.
No, Corbin. It's Corbin and Jorge Lopez tonight.
Corbin tonight? Okay. And then I think it's Scherzer tomorrow or Sunday because he didn't pitch this week, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's tomorrow, if I'm getting it correct. But they had 2 nice wins. You know, like I said, it's bad when John Lester's hitting home runs off you. Juan Soto, you know, someone learned how to hit a home run again because he is really playing well. I've really liked how Soto's hitting lately. Escobar, I think he's playing great too. Ever since coming over in that trade, I mean, he's just been a completely different player. Trey's been awesome. You know,
Scherzer's pitching tomorrow, by the way. It's Scherzer and Watkins.
Scherzer's tomorrow.
And then Lester, and then I'm assuming Means, but I could be wrong.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I figured Scherzer would be in one of these games. I don't know if it was today. Usually today's his regular rest because he pitched on Sunday. So I guess they're giving him an extra day's rest. But they played okay against the Padres. I think they won that last game. That played well against Miami. Then now, of course, you know, the schedule gets a little easier as they travel to Camden Yards. Honestly, their schedule down the stretch is not that tough. They play a lot of the NL East teams. If they want to make a run, you know, like I said, I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks ever since they started struggling after they got above 500. This is the time to do it, especially against the struggling teams in baseball. You got to be the bad teams. The Orioles will definitely qualify with that. You know, we'll see if they're able to take at least 2 out of 3. If they're not able to do it, I don't know if you saw Starlin Castro was released from the team. Whole domestic violence situation, right? Mike Rizzo said they don't tolerate that. And he said it falls on him for signing him. He basically said he should have never have signed him in the first place. It was good on him to say that and to own up to it. You know, I'd be curious to see if he would say the same thing when it comes to someone like Trevor Bauer. If he were on the Nationals, I would like to say that he would. But it's good to see that, you know, he basically said there's a zero tolerance policy.
Starlin Castro's also that into account.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, but it was good to see that he said, we have zero tolerance for anyone that does that in the organization. And he said it falls on him for vetting him and seeking him out and signing him. So it's good to see that he did do that. I actually had no idea that there was a situation with him that arose in 2008. I was the first I heard of it from this week. But anyways, should be a good series tonight. Well, starting tonight, and hopefully Corbin can get back to pitching like he has been a little bit earlier in the season. Well, hopefully Jones hit 7 innings of, I think it was either 7 shutout innings or 7 innings of 1 run.
It's also easier knowing that it was like a football score on favoring your side. That makes it easier for pitching. But I mean, yeah, I understand what you mean on that one.
Yeah, and it was just fun to go back to the game, man. And I missed that so much. I don't know. I just, I soaked it up pretty good. I missed it so much just because the pandemic has taken so much away. And hopefully that's the start of any games that I get to go to. And of course, I always see something amazing when I go to these games. A pitcher home run, 10 runs in the first 2 innings. That's the first time I've ever seen a team score 18 runs. Whenever I go to a Nationals game, some wacky, weird stuff happens. So, just really glad I got to go back. And, I also think you're going to the game this weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I have tickets for today's game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I'm actually sitting. So I'm going to be sitting left field. I'll say.
Okay, gotcha. I sat behind home plate for the Nats game, but those are still good seats.
Yeah, like these were cheap seats for and then these were cheap seats. So I was looking at the seats behind home plate, like they were like $100, $110. Like the seats I got were like 40 to 50, so they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll that's exciting to see. Like I said, I'm going to that game. From the Orioles' perspective, Jorge Lopez, for some reason, he always stalls around that 5th inning. I don't know if it's a third time through the order. Or he's what Blake Snell was to a large like when it comes to his patterns. He's not Blake Snell, but remember how Blake Snell, like they had those numbers last year where like the first 2-3 innings he had his ERA was pretty good, and the 4th it goes higher, then 5th it goes even higher, or something like that, and that's the reason why they said so Lopez has kind of the same pattern. So how well he pitches in that 4th inning is going to be really key. Obviously, if he's out of the game, then the game's not going to be fun. That's like game's not going to be good. Then that 5th inning, 4th and 5th inning, that's going to be key because he can go 6 to 7 innings when his stuff's on, and that's a frustrating thing about Jorge Lopez. He is very talented. He has a very good fastball, but the problem is he seems to stall out after 2 times through the order or the 5th inning. And obviously, there might be some guys on the Nationals or some guys on the Dodgers or Yankees that seem to have that issue, but that's kind of the thing I'm looking out for. Especially going to see a guy who's with overpowering stuff, but a very good story. Basically, if he can locate his fastball and his off speed, everything will be good. And then Sunday might be John Means. He came off the list. I know it was 5 innings, 5 runs, but it was against Tampa Bay, and he's still probably working out some issues with the shoulder. I've seen a lot of people say, "Well, he doesn't have the sticky stuff." I'm like, he just came back from a shoulder injury, so but you kind of brought up a good point, and we'll briefly talk about this, which is the trade deadline. Nelson Cruz got traded yesterday. Last week, Jock Peterson got traded, and knowing that Nelson Cruz got the Twins, the Rays' 17th best prospect, and a guy who's probably like the 35th best prospect in the Rays system, I could see the trade market being higher depending on the player. Prior to yesterday, I thought that Chris Bryant wasn't going to get much, or Joey Gallo.
He'll get dealt. Someone will pay a decent price for him, I think.
Yeah, but I think it was telling that that Chris Bryant and Javi Baez are both nearing. They're going to be free agents at the end of this year, and it seems like the Cubs are prioritizing Javi Baez now, and Anthony Rizzo. So something. So either Scott Boras has pretty much said, remember they had a long time ago with Chris Bryant.
Yes.
That might put a sour taste. That probably put a sour taste in their mouths. They're not probably too eager to sign with the Cubs ownership. I think Theo Epstein was really smart because it was like, why did he resign from being the Cubs GM? Well, you get out when the getting's good, and you're about to lose bias.
You get a higher payday. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, that, and also you're about to keep the ownership is there, and how cheap the Ricketts family is there.
He won his World Series indeed. They're probably not going to get back there, I don't think, for some time again.
No. But my point being is, Chris Bryant's due for free agency. Javi Baez is due for free agency. Anthony Rizzo's due for free agency after next year, and he probably didn't want to be the guy that broke up that core.
Good point.
So it's like Jed Hoyer. So Hoyer is now the guy who has to face the brunt of that or baseball personally. I think that's what he is. But yeah, I think there's gonna be guys from the Cubs. I think Joey Gallo might get traded. I think Scherzer could land you guys. You could easily rebuild your farm.
They can get probably at least. I think they could get a top 5 prospect in someone's system. I 100% think that.
Oh no, top 3. You're getting a top 3 for Scherzer.
Yeah, at least. They're going to decide in the next week. I think Rizzo's preference is to keep Max because of everything he's done. This is the last year of his contract, but he's going to consider trading him and some other players on the team. But yeah, I think they could get a top 3 to 5 prospect on a team and probably a little bit more too.
Yeah, no. Well, the other reason why I think you could trade Scherzer is it's a 7-year contract technically, but it's really the money's getting paid over 14 years. So
yeah,
Rizzo is going to be paying Scherzer a ton of money. So he doesn't. I don't think that he's too eager to sign Scherzer, especially if he's going to be 36, 37.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, Tampa Bay, they didn't give up too much for Nelson Cruz. I think we've already talked about multiple times in today's episode. They have a deep farm system. I could absolutely see them basically trading for Max Scherzer, and then if Glasnow comes back, Scherzer, Glasnow, as your 1 and 2 in that rotation.
That's nasty.
That would be a legitimate. That would be a very legitimate World Series rotation with, and all those guys.
They might win it all. They actually could win it all, to be honest.
Yeah, and so it'll be really interesting to see. We should see more activity for next week's episode. We should I wouldn't be shocked if there's 2 or 3 major trades that we see. So I believe that's the last one for MLB talk. Now let's go to the NFL talk. You want to talk a little bit about the Steelers?
Yeah. So the Steelers, Vince Williams retired this week. I didn't see it coming. He did have a couple cryptid tweets. Probably one of the more underrated Steelers of my lifetime. He always was just a hit stick every time he was in the game. Luckily, they do have depth to replace him. Spillane's really good. They could be signing Avery Williamson. They have a couple other players there who are good. So I think that's fine there. They did sign Melvin Ingram. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that.
Yeah, a cheap deal. They needed depth there really badly. It's just, outside of T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, they didn't have anyone. So be pretty good. And they just started camp. I looked this morning, Ben Roethlisberger was asked a question about a Tom Brady diet. And he's like, well, I don't know where all these reports are coming from. My campus, my agent, my trainer, and my wife. So, because these golf analysts don't know what they're talking about. So, but he does look a bit lean. I'll say he looks like he's lost 30 or 40 pounds.
Yeah, did you see the pictures of James Harden when he was with the Rockets this year? He did not Ben did not look like that, but it's not like Ben man, let's be honest, or Captain America.
No, it's not that, but he has lost a
bunch. Yeah, he's in good shape for sure.
Yeah, he is. And they just started camp. It's pretty crazy how training camp is already here. They're doing it at Heinz Field, and they're doing it at the complex at the south side of Pittsburgh. So getting closer to football season. Not much else happened with the Steelers this week. I know around the league there's a lot of stuff, with the NFL saying teams can have to forfeit if they can't reschedule the game due to unvaccinated players.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that point. There's a couple of news items for the Ravens. Let me quickly go over that. So so you mentioned Melvin Ingram. So the first thought that a lot of Ravens fans would have is that Justin Houston is still available. I mean, I think that my take is that the Ravens have an offer for Justin Houston. They're not going to budge on that offer, and part of it is because of the other point I'm going to bring up here. But there's actually two more points actually as well. Three actually. So one, basically the hurry on signing Justin Houston. I think he signs with one of Ravens or Chiefs. I think Ravens on a discounted deal. I know that he was a potential option for the Steelers. Like, what were your thoughts if he signed with?
I prefer Ingram, to be honest. I think Houston's more washed at this point. That's my personal opinion. I don't think he's that good anymore. And Ingram, I think, has been better the last couple of years than Houston has. Just my opinion, though.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, and then the other main stories were I think that Lamar was running a camp for kids, and I think he was like running some lightly running some wide receiver, running back or DB drills, and the national media was crushing him, saying, "Why are you doing this? You're about to sign a contract." I know he was on asphalt, but didn't look like he was doing something super dangerous. But then I see Baker Mayfield pretty much doing the same thing, but on a football field, and Saquon Barkley coming back from a major injury, doing the same thing on his end, doing camp, and those guys. But with Lamar, it's why you're doing this. You're being irresponsible. Like, it's a little hypocritical. And then I think there's a lot of Ravens fans that brought up, well, Brady would never like they've been able to media say, well, you have no you didn't say anything when Tom Brady jumped off a cliff during the off season, and then you just saw a lot of Ravens YouTubers like tag Shannon Sharp in there because of some of these bad takes, and a few other ones, NBA championship, and Giannis is kind of compared to Lamar in the sense that they both.
I did see that. I did see that comparison.
Yeah, so a lot of people are excited. Like, if Giannis won this year, that means Lamar's like. It's gonna be really interesting to see. I mean, that'll be really great. I replied to, I think it was Sarah Ellison, who used to work for the Ravens. She had this tweet about the Giannis and Lamar comparisons. I had a reply to the tweet saying that if the Ravens win a Super Bowl this year, like a lot of Ravens flock is going to talk. They're going to talk a bunch of. They're going to basically talk a bunch of shit, and it's going to be. You're going to need more than just one Target CVS length receipt.
Oh, it'll be bad. It'll be bad.
And it's well deserved. Like, yeah, it's like, and it's like the only people who have to blame for that is the media. Mm-hmm. Like, you're a Steelers fan. Like, you understand why. Like,
Dude, everyone comes to have my team, whether it's Big Ben or Chase Claypool or it's just most. Becoming a troll account at this point.
Yeah, I know.
One of my favorite sites, man, but they just turned into a bunch of trolls.
Yeah, but then it was also one of those things where it's like with Lamar, for some reason he's not handling these discussions well because he doesn't have an agent. But then again, if I could hire a lawyer to look at the contract and not have to give him 5% of my annual value, I'm going to do that rather than hiring an agent. So, and it's really is talking about. So, like, guys like Florio is being critical of Lamar, but at the same time, he's probably trying to pump up the cases for these agents, because with Lamar's contract, one of the things you have to keep in mind is if Lamar can negotiate a successful contract on his own with no agent, and Lamar Jackson does it. I mean, it's one thing if DeAndre Hopkins does it. It's one thing if Okong does it. It's one thing if Richard Sherman does it. But if by himself, well, with his lawyer and his mom, and still keep the 5%, What's to stop Kyler Murray from firing his agent doing the same thing?
Yeah.
What's to stop Josh
Go ahead.
Allen? So I could definitely see agents being worried that because you have the right guy that could upend that system. So it's going to be really interesting to see that talk. And just one more thing. I know that the Indianapolis Colts were and used to be the Baltimore Colts. Let me say this. Johnny said multiple times his legacy ended in Baltimore. This guy also wanted the NFL Hall of Fame to remove any traces of him in connection to the Indianapolis Colts. So the Indianapolis Colts did this like throwback video, and
I can see that,
yeah, and then they were bringing his jersey, and then you just see a lot of Ravens fans basically point out John Unitas said every single way, I want nothing to do with your team. That might have been upset, but John Unitas has clearly been the most against it compared to the rest of the Baltimore Colts. I just really hope that the Colts at some point realize that and respect his wishes. Because my stance is, if your team relocates and you have a player that played for the team in that previous city saying that he does not want his legacy to be with that new city, then respect his wishes. I think that's.
I agree.
It's like what do you think using Jim Brown in their promotional material?
That'd be pretty bad. I'll say that. That was bad.
That's pretty much my point. And then we'll briefly talk about the vaccine stuff. I mean,
we'll do quickly the vaccine and the Devontae Adams stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of these players, man, they're showing their innocence, showing that they didn't really get much of an education at Florida State and Clemson. It's just they don't. A lot of these people, if they didn't have, I don't want to be it. I don't know.
Yeah. All I'm going,
they're being really stupid, I think, is my main point.
Yeah. So all I'm going to say about the vaccine stuff is that anytime
when your team forfeits because you and a bunch of other players are stupid, don't start whining that.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say, really, this is more so a case of for everyone in any situation. If you start using the argument of the mind, and I think I texted you something like this, where if you start using the mind, that's a losing battle. Like if for every 100 people you meet, you're a jerk to 99 of them, but you're kind to one person. But you go and say, and if someone calls you a jerk, and you say, well, I can't be a jerk. I'm kind to every one person out of 100, out of every 100 people I meet. Well, what about the other 99 people that you're a jerk to? If you're a jerk to 99% of the people you meet, it doesn't matter if you're kind to 1%. You're still a jerk because you're a jerk to 99% of the people you meet. Have these players basically say, well, I've seen someone who got sick because of after being vaccinated. There's a bunch of genetic factors. There's a randomness factor. There is a lot of factors that have people get this.
Then you have DeAndre Hopkins saying that like 50, like hundreds of thousands of people have died from it. It's like that's just like not true, man. Like you're just spewing misinformation and causing mass hysteria for the sake of causing mass hysteria. You know, these people really, so it's kind of ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, no, we'll move on. We'll move on to Devontae Adams. So it's another unhappy receiver. We know that Aaron Rodgers was unhappy in Green Bay.
He still does not have that new contract. The Packers are a mess, man. I don't know what's going on with that franchise.
I think it's ego. I think it's pretty much ego driven. I think that because I know Packers are the only franchise that are owned by fans, but it's definitely like they have made mistakes over the past few years. I think there's that weird statistic of only one offensive player in the last 10 years. They picked only one offensive player in the draft in the first round, and that was Aaron Rodgers' replacement.
Maybe you should take care of your quarterback and your star receiver better.
Yeah, and then Devontae Adams, basically he's due for a new contract. I don't think
he's gonna get a lot of money. Wherever he goes, he's gonna get paid.
Yeah, I mean, don't be shocked if he goes team like Vegas.
I saw that on Twitter today. A lot of people were saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe one thing if you want to keep those two together, maybe like I've seen like NFL Live was making these trades a long time ago, and I think it was like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to the Broncos, and I think the Broncos give back like one of their receivers and like their next 2 first-round picks or next 3 first-round picks. That's going to be interesting. Like it's stuff like that. Resigning in Green Bay, and I know there's a lot of Ravens fans that are going to bring up, well, Devontae Adams is coached by Keith Williams, who's now with the Ravens. The Ravens aren't going to pay Devontae Adams. Like they got.
Yeah, I don't think the Ravens are paying.
No. Like it's like, well, it's like they got to pay Lamar, they got to pay Mark Andrews, they got to pay Bradley Bozeman, they got to pay. We'll see about Chuck Clark. They got to think about Deshaun Elliott.
I don't think you're going to have the salary cap space to pay him.
Yeah, and speaking of with Lamar's contract, we'll just go move to the Michael Thomas one. But what are your if a player, let's say this is Lamar, let's say this is on table. Let's say Lamar were to sign a contract that guarantees him a fixed percentage of the cap. Let's say 18% of the cap for 4 years, like kind of like a baseball contract. And let's say the cap continues to go up. Who benefits more from that type of situation, the player or the team?
The team.
Because when you think about the player, he gets 18% of the cap, and if the cap continues to go up at a 5% rate, then he's getting that. If you let's say Lamar does, and it wouldn't shock me if Lamar signs a contract like this. He signs a contract, 15% of the cap, like it gets guaranteed to him. The Ravens now know for the next 4 or 5 years, 85% of the cap is going to go to anyone not named Lamar Jackson. So it doesn't really matter how much the cap is going to be. Like they know what percentage goes to Lamar and what percentage goes to everyone else, and then you can work out the math later on after that. So I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just one of those things for me that how the team benefits. It's just interesting to see who benefits more from that arrangement and whether we're going to see that type of contract anytime soon. We'll briefly talk about this. What are your thoughts on Michael Thomas missing the start of the NFL?
Oh, the Saints. They lost their quarterback, and now they're going to lose Michael Thomas for a bit. So, good luck to Sean Payton and the rest of that offense. I know they have Kamara, they have a couple other weapons, but I just don't trust their quarterback situation there without Breeze. So, it should be interesting. What are your quick thoughts on that before we do?
So, I would say that I agree with you there, but it's also going to be pretty interesting to see because we know that the Saints are in a salary cap bad situation, that they might start thinking of trading players. So if Michael Thomas continues to miss time, it's Michael Thomas, because the longer we wait, like a year or two from now, Michael Thomas could very well, like the cap hits might be less. So would Michael Thomas now be more salvageable for the other team in a year or two? So that's kind of like where I'm like thinking about it. Like him missing the start of this year, him missing games last year, him with a big cap hit. Is he a guy to watch out for? Is he the next Julio Jones to get traded in a year or two? Like that's kind of where I'm interested in. But I mean, I definitely think that he's a key here. And then we'll end the show with this. The Virginia Tech, I think that's really good.
Yeah, that was big. It looks like they're going to miss on Cam Miller. That sucks. Penn State looks like he's going to get him. That was one of their big corner targets. They're still on the good for Cam Johnson and Tyler Banks, but at least the biggest ones, they got Ramon Brown and Gunnar Givens and Purnell. You hit on most of your targets. It sucks that they didn't get Jennings or probably Cam Miller, but this is a better class than last year, so I'll say that.
Yeah, and a few other notes. Apparently, Jack Holyfield now might be moving more towards the offensive line.
Saw that, yep.
Be more of a defensive end as well.
Saw that, and I keep seeing a lot of hype around Braxton Burmeister and how they think they can throw the ball better this year than they have in the last 2 years. So
I think you got to rely on the run game.
We'll see if they're correct. We'll see if they're correct.
I think you got to take a page out of the Ravens playbook, rely on the run game, and then allow Braxton. Because I think Burmeister is a really good athlete. I don't think he's good down the field. Now,
I just don't think he's that good of a passer is my thing. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone he could be breaking up. Like, no, like even Tech fans aren't really thrilled about him.
Yeah, it's just that's not gonna happen.
Like, I think we're more excited to see. I mean, Todd Bullock, we'll see what he does. I think we're more excited to see Alex Orjai.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think that's where we'll end the show. We'll end the show with this. Did you see the Chipotle order that Giannis had?
I did. That was really funny.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Would you like if you ordered that? How much of that? Like, let's say you had a workout in. Like, would you be able to complete at least more than like? Would you at least be able to get like 30?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Like, we're not asking, and I'm not saying this like in a Joey Chestnut 10-minute competition way where you finish in 10 minutes. Like, all you got to do, like, you have one day to have like 50 chicken like McMinis and a half a soda. I was like, I think I could if I had a workout in, and you gave me the entire day.
Yep.
I could probably space that out and actually complete it. I don't know if in one sitting I could complete it, but if you gave me like, okay, you have one day, all right, I'll have some of it in the morning, some of it 2 hours later, some of it 2 hours after that. I think I could probably knock that out. I mean, just chicken McMinis.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, that's where we'll end the show. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully next week we will have some more update. We will be able to talk about more trades and maybe some more contract extensions. So hopefully next week is a good episode.
Yeah, we should have a really good show next week. I'll be back with the video.
All right.
All right. Hey, we'll do this again next week.
All right. Bye.